The impact of the pandemic on city finances has really been threefold, and we are now sitting a year after the lockdowns began in South Africa, and we can notice already three key points. The first is that cities are getting reduced revenue from property rates and also service charges. So in particular from non-domestic customers, reduced economic activity as a result of lockdowns has meant that businesses have been shut down, in some cases operating on a limited schedule, which means, of course, that a business then consumes less water and electricity on its premises, and seeing that cities get a certain percentage of that water charged to the business, therefore their revenues have gone down. Also, we find that depressed property markets have affected property rates revenue. So that has been also a consequence of lockdown in general, and to the extent that cities have had to change their property rates regimes based on the property markets, that has an impact on their revenue. Also has the closure of some businesses in effect has removed the revenues from businesses altogether. So that's number one, so decreased revenue. Number two is higher city expenditure. So as you can imagine, cities are responsible for sanitation of public transportation facilities. They have also had to provide emergency water supplies. They've had to buy protective equipment for their employees, but also they've had to deal with having employees also on lockdown. So employees who are working remotely and the costs associated with that, providing them with computer equipment, providing them with data and so on. And so that has increased city bills. They've also had to provide food and shelter for homeless residents of our cities. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, the economic environment has been worsened. And so customers and city residents have actually lost their jobs. In many cases, entrepreneurs have been running businesses and experienced reduced business. And so the ability of residents to actually pay their municipal bills has declined. So this is the third area really in which city revenues have been affected. So non-payment of municipal services for household incomes have impacted on the ability of residents to pay their municipal bills. And so all these three things have had a knock-on effect. So decreased revenue from services, decreased revenue from property rates, increased expenditures around the basic costs of dealing with the pandemic, as well as decreased payment of bills. And we expect that these effects will be temporary, but depending, of course, on whether businesses reopen again, the extent of the economic recovery post-COVID, we cannot say for certain how long these effects will last. And I think that summarizes really the very big impact on municipal finances. And I expect that we'll see this even more so when we see audited figures in the next State of City Finances report that comes out in the next couple of years.